Welcome to the 17th episode with Onward Shift. Today we are fortunate enough to have Luke Morton with us, who is the founder of the 𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐞. Luke, please introduce yourself.
Yes, I appreciate the opportunity, 𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐞. Obviously came up today and I met you today at the FSB Business Bootcamp in Colchester. But my name's Luke Morton. I'm an Essex boy. I run a company called the 𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐞. I'm also known as a sports broadcaster. But my business focuses on serving the people of Essex at the moment, but want to branch out, selling two products, something called the little super shots, which is condensed little shots or supplements, anything from ginger, beetroot, wheatgrass, turmeric, spirulina, to then also something which I call the daily doses, which is green juices, red juices. We've got the green boost, purple power, red reviver, which basically pack in your 5 to 10 portions of fruits and vegetables. I'm a big advocate for juicing, so I was someone who never got fruits and vegetables as a young child growing up. I wouldn't eat them. So if you can't eat them, can you drink them? And that's why I live and breathe it now as a business.
Honestly, there's so many questions I have to ask you about this. But before we get into that, what is your why? Why did you start this business? What's your passion towards it? I'd love to know your why.
Yeah, I mean, it is deep. And I think I talked about it today, like having the right foundation, and that takes many forms, having the right goal, focus, whatever it is. And really that comes down to what is your why. And I think often people give a superficial reason why they want something. They say, I want to lose this weight. If it comes to health, for example, I want to rid myself of this condition. I want to have more energy, and that's their goal. And they say that's their why. But often you go a few levels deeper and you find that actually there's something much more that's driving you. And I think for me, it's twofold. I think, I mentioned Eddie the Eagle today, and there's a reason I mentioned that, because there's actually a film made about Eddie the Eagle, which is brilliant. And there's a line in it where he says, all my life I was always put down and I was always told I can't do that. And now that's why I want to become an Olympic athlete, because I want to prove those people wrong. So I think for me, someone who arguably came from nothing, didn't have the confidence to get up on stage and speak, didn't have the boldness to take risks and start a business, for example. And I was an athlete at the time, playing in goal, got to a semi-professional level, but I was never the person in the top team. So I think a big part of why for me has always been, can I prove other people wrong, as well as also prove myself right as well? And then I think as well, for me, it's always been about, can I keep growing? Can I constantly expand? I don't want to just settle at the level I'm at. And like I said, again, in the talk today, there's always a next level. And I think to myself, don't stop where you are. Can you keep pushing? Because otherwise, I think I'm doing a disservice to the people who have helped me. And I know that if I help myself more like the juicing helped me, then actually the biggest lesson I've learned in life and personal development, self-help, is that, there's something larger than just yourself, and that is to be able to help other people. And I think for me, I get more of a hit from something when I get a message from someone after a talk today and they said, you know what, I really took a lot of great advice from your talk and I'm going to implement that. I did many talks last year at the university I used to study at and work at, and people would say to me, if it wasn't for your talk, I wouldn't have picked this university. I've just been accepted by UCAS and now I'm going to be studying there thanks to you. And I'm looking forward to the next 3 years. And actually that becomes something so much more profound and impactful for me than materialistic stuff or money. And like I said today, Jason Val said it to me, if you can make a difference first and foremost, then actually everything else will follow that comes with that.
That's such a great quote. And you sound like, your passion and your drive is to genuinely help people. And that's inspirational within itself, actually. You personally stated, because quite challenging, can't it? Because I go through those challenges of, you start a company and you have to consistently stay motivated. How do you battle that one?
I think it's an interesting one, and, motivation levels vary, and, great leaders, I've been in football dressing rooms, I've been at talks, and some of the best leaders in the world find a way to motivate when it's not there. And, there's times when you're not going to feel like doing something, but if you're truly successful, you're a true leader, you do it even when you don't feel like it. And I think for me, it's just a case of, they say, there's a quote, I can't remember the exact quote, but you need to motivate yourself every day. They say that, bathing or showering doesn't last. That's why we recommend it every day. So actually, whatever it takes for you to motivate yourself, reading the right books, having a vision board, listening to inspiring music, I like uplifting nostalgic music. So you've got your headphones on, putting whatever it takes to get yourself going. I mean, for many years, I followed something from Tony Robbins. He recommends doing something called the Hour of Power, or 15 minutes to Thrive, which is basically involving moving your body, maybe something like a cold shower. And I think these things, it's little habits that stack up that actually, motivation has to, people say, oh, does it come from within or externally? I think it comes from having the right habits and rituals, and then you feel like doing things more often.
So create the habits to then form your motivation, I guess, is what you're trying to say there, right?
Exactly, yeah. Because it won't always be there, but if you can discipline yourself to do something every day, albeit small, then actually you'll just do things automatically, and you don't require, or you're not necessitating on motivation, because like I said, it's not always there. You have to find it through your rituals and disciplines.
Am I okay to ask you if you've got 3 top habits that you've formed for yourself, and you'll be up for sharing with our listeners today?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I've got 3 here. So number 1 would be, and I'm going to say this unbiased, but it's true, where possible, we've all heard of the saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But I say something much better than that, which is have a juice a day or a shot a day. And the reason I say that is because people aren't getting what they need every single day nutritionally. And like I said today in the talk, if you feel better in life, you're going to do better when it comes to performance. And that doesn't matter if you're a business owner or an employee, whatever you're doing, you need to be able to perform. And for me, nutrition plays such a big part, especially when, you're constantly talking to people or you're trying to inspire people. You need every bit of nutrition you can get. So number 1 would be have a fresh cold pressed juice every single day, ideally 5 to 10 portions. Number 2, there's been a big thing for me, and this comes in many forms, is doing some sort of cold therapy every day. That could be a cold shower, that could be a cold bath, like a plunge pool. It's not for everyone, but it's twofold. First of all, you get enormous benefits from it. Some of the endorphins that are released when you go into cold water, and if you've heard of Wim Hof, then you'll know that one of his mottos is a cold shower a day keeps the doctor away, because it just boosts the immune system so much. But also it acts as a mental discipline. So if you've got a really hard day ahead and you basically do that as one of the first things you did early in the morning, in some ways what you've got to face the rest of the day might not be as challenging, because you've already done something challenging to start with. And then the third thing I need to get back to doing it more often. At one point I was doing it every day, which is this, it's not so much meditation, but it's this idea of doing something called priming. Because if you go through your everyday life, you'll find that you'll hear things in the news, social media, and sometimes it's not there to serve you, and it can actually make you not believe in yourself. It can make you doubt things. So what you want to do is really, it comes in 3 parts, but the 2 main parts is actually gratitude, thinking of 3 moments that you're grateful for and focusing on them and really remembering those moments and holding on to them. And then spending 2 minutes, 3 different moments on each one, visualizing 3 goals that you have. And that can be something for the day ahead, or it can be something for 3 months' time, 6 months' time, or a year ahead. And the more you do that, some of the best athletes in the world, Ronaldo, Rooney, they've all practiced visualization. And if you spend 10 minutes, and you can go on YouTube, you type in Tony Robbins priming, he's got a great version of it. I've done it in an in-person event, Unleash the Power Within. It's absolutely brilliant. And some of the things in my life that I've kind of created, business being one of them, for example, I would argue going back a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, part of that is testament to sitting there in the morning and just visualizing it for 5-10 minutes, because it starts in here.
It does start up there, doesn't it? Never personally heard of that, so I'm most definitely going to have to check out that video. That'll be quite interesting. Is it on YouTube?
It's different,
did you say?
It works. Yeah, Tony Robbins priming. You just typed in priming, you'll probably find it. Priming 10 minutes.
Awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. Now, let's say, we're going to have a few businesses or people who want to start a business kind of listening to this podcast. Now, if you was to give them any advice on starting up, because let's face it, that first decision of going, okay, I'm actually going to get started, what advice would you give to someone who's got this great vision, they're passionate about it, but they've also got a full-time job and they need that job for security? What advice would you give them to get started?
I mean, I've always been in a privileged position because I've got a dad who's almost been 30 years in business, followed a similar path to him. He was an international karate champion back in the day and he got all the way to black belt. Likewise, I followed suit and became a black belt myself as well. And that taught me a lot of discipline and so on. But I've grown up with business and being around it and knowing what is required to sell, to influence people, and to create something that people actually want to buy into. And I've sat in and listened to meetings and everything my dad has to say. And obviously he's been the one who supported me in training for public speaking and things like that. And I can't thank him enough. And I appreciate that everyone comes from different walks of life, different backgrounds. And you might be sitting there right now listening and you think, well, I've got nothing. I haven't got a parent who's a business owner. I haven't got much financial, background, whatever. So I can't really just go and invest loads of money into a business. And, everyone starts somewhere. Like, I'm a big believer in that whole idea, every professional, every role model, was once a beginner. And often some of the very best started with absolutely nothing. Likewise, there's people out there who might be thinking, you know what, I am in a position to start a business, I'm just too scared. Think of someone like Richard Branson. I think he came from a decent background, but he still went on to become, he had his other challenges like dyslexia, things like that, still went on to become one of the world's best. What I would say is, a quote I heard once, which was, stay in your full-time job and work part-time on your business. And it might just be if you've got an idea, you can start working part-time on it until it gets to a point where potentially then you can stop that full-time job because it's serving you enough and that become your full-time thing. If you haven't got the idea, the chances are you haven't surrounded yourself or exposed yourself to enough ideas. And that's where things like networking events come into play. Let's be honest, if I hadn't have gone to that National Achievers Congress at the 𝐥𝐤𝐤 in 2016, I wouldn't have known about juicing, and it came at the right time. But that came from me just wanting to search for answers and better myself. And sometimes ideas come from the most unlikely places. So if you just, and sometimes it can come from a song, it can come from a movie, it can come from a post on social media, and it gives you that idea. And it's tough, I understand if you don't have an idea, because even me right now, you think to yourself, well, could I do a different business than juicing that might be an even grander business and whatever? But I think it's important you're passionate about it. And these days, there's a lot more opportunities for you to do something related to what you're passionate about than it used to be. You can talk about so many different things these days and potentially make a living from it. And I don't speak for everyone, but just from my own experience and mainly just seeing what's possible. Like even today, I had insights and I'm like, you know what? It's actually possible. You just need to stick at it. So that's what I'd say on that.
You said there, which was probably the key word, and that was passion. For me, if you're passionate about something, if you love something, you should absolutely pursue it. And that doesn't always mean you leave your security. And what I mean by security is your job. That pays the bills, puts a roof over your head and puts food on the table. If that's bringing you security, you absolutely shouldn't leave that. However, if you've got a fire burning passion, you also shouldn't forget about that. And I think what youngsters call it a side hustle. And exactly good for those who have an idea and want to implement it. Yeah, just work. They also sometimes think, don't they, that have to dedicate 6 hours an evening to this side hustle. You absolutely don't. You can do a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there, and see where it takes you. Really good advice. But I wanted to go back onto your shots. Tasted, I think, flavor you had today, and they are so good. It's unbelievable. I was gobsmacked because I remember me and my missus made some shots of our own at home last year, And oh my god, they were awful. They were absolutely awful. But yours tasted so good. I'd love in thinking you have three. Is that right?
There's 5 flavours for the shot. So you've got
Okay.
ginger and lemon, beetroot and lime, wheatgrass and orange. And then you've got turmeric and lemon. And then you've got a double ginger spirulina shot. And then we've also done some seasonal ones like a strawberry ginger lemonade shot. We've done cherry shots as well. But they're the 5 main ones. And then we have the little daily doses. This is a 300 ml. We've got the green boost, the purple power, the red reviver, the blue magic, and the orange vit, which altogether cover all bases, because we really need we talk about 5 portions a day, or really it's 10, but you actually want 30 different fruits and vegetables on a weekly basis. And by having a mixture of the shots and the daily doses, you're actually getting those 30 different, fruits and vegetables. You couple that with some avocado, you blend that with some avocado, banana, and you top up those macronutrients, you're going to be fine.
I've always struggled with is inside one of those, let's say, was it 30 mil? Is it a 30 mil shot?
So 60 mil shot and a 300 mil juice, for example, and then a 500 as well. We do.
So inside the 60 mil shot, one thing I don't understand is how can I get all the nutrients I need inside such a small shot? Because I'm assuming, these are made, in a warehouse or a factory somewhere. So how do I know what's like how much nutrients is actually inside that one shot?
Yeah, of course. So the shots are essentially a natural supplement, and they take place of something like, we've all heard of things like Berocca, those tablets, multivitamin pills. People have turmeric in those little capsules. And the only problem with them is they're not often fully absorbed. They might have the right grammage of what you want. And with research, for example, you only need about 5 grams of ginger on a daily basis. Well, in our single shot strength ginger shot, we have 7.5 grams going into the little bottle. In our double strength ginger shot, we have 15 grams. And that's for someone who just likes it hot. We obviously juice from the root, and we make all of this in-house as well. It's not outsourced, or it's not pasteurized or HPP'd. And we make it and then freeze it to preserve it. And some of the compounds in there, like, the lime or the lemon, they're actually a natural preservative anyway. And this in the fridge would last about 7 days because it is cold pressed. But it is concentrated nutrition, and it just, by nature, things like ginger, turmeric, part of the same family, wheatgrass. I mean, wheatgrass, just a small shot of wheatgrass, not only does it contain 92 different vitamins and minerals and enzymes, but it's actually the equivalent of a small bowl of leafy greens, so spinach, kale, lettuce, in one little shot. And don't get me wrong, I went to London the other day and I had a pure wheatgrass shot, and it really isn't for the faint-hearted because it's absolutely horrible in taste. The only reason I could probably take it just about is because I've done it for so long, but I have to have a bit of a chaser, a bit of orange or juice, whatever. But that's why we mix in a bit of orange with the wheatgrass shot, because actually it helps absorb. You can't absorb some of the compounds. You need iron and vitamin C to go together to be able to absorb all the vitamin C content. And often that's what's not absorbed by the body, because there's a saying, you are what you eat. But I would actually say you are what you absorb. And by having juices on an empty stomach and a little concentrated shot like this, within 15 minutes, it's going to be 100% absorbed into the bloodstream, and then you're good to go.
Be interesting. And I didn't realise you had so many different flavours. I know I did your wheatgrass one today, and I have to admit, it's not for the faint-hearted, is it?
No, yeah. Even still, you'd be surprised if you tried pure anything, you'd be put off for life. So that's why my motto of nutrition and taste stands firm.
Yeah, to be fair, you're absolutely right. It wasn't too bad, but no, really good points there. But one thing I really am curious about is, what are the benefits of these juices? Because I know you've mentioned on one of your newsletters, it's reduced blood pressure, arthritis, and a couple of other things. I think it was lower cholesterol and one other, which I can't remember. But I'd love to know and understand how that's possible through the juices.
I mean, first and foremost, I'll make this clear because obviously this is going out there. And I always say to people when I have this conversation, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a nutritionist. I am a natural juice therapist, which is accredited by the Complementary Medical Association. And I'm never going to make a claim that any of these things are a cure or a guarantee. But a lot of these things, especially in more recent years, have been scientifically studied. And it's been proven that things like ginger are so massively anti-inflammatory, along with turmeric. And there's been studies done on so many different people around the world. I'll give you a couple of studies as an example, 2 studies.
Mm-hmm.
One was done on a group of children, and they basically took 2 groups, split them up, and one group, 30 kids, for example, had fresh apple juice, not pasteurized stuff that would be in our juices, cold pressed, whatever. And they had that for a few days in a row. And the other half of the group had no apple juice. And what they found was they were at a young age where they developed something called whooping cough. And they found that the ones who, I can't remember the exact study, the second one I know a bit better, but they basically found the symptoms of the group that had the apple juice increased massively. Their symptoms dissipated and they recovered from the whooping cough so much quicker. I think if you typed in whooping cough study apple juice, you'd find it. But the second one was all about beetroot, and it was actually a study done on synchronized swimmers. And what they did is they took 2 groups. One group had a shot of beetroot just before going underwater, and then the other group had no beetroot and then had to go underwater and hold their breath. And I think what happened is the group with the beetroot shots were able to hold their breath for double the time of the group who didn't have the beetroot shots. And they did it with 30, 40, 50 people, so it wasn't just a couple of people. So it goes to show how much opening up the blood vessels and bringing more oxygen to the blood and increasing the hemoglobin, all of that, actually has a profound effect, even as quick as having one little shot. Even though I say to people, start having this every day, like a doctor would say, take this medication for 3 months to give it an effect. Well, I'd say the same. But these things can take quite a quick effect at the same time as well.
Really quite interesting. So I guess through the nutrients through the natural nutrients you put into your shots, those are what your body, I guess, essentially needs anyway, but we're just not having the correct intake. Is that right in me thinking?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have trillions of cells and we need to feed those cells, and people through convenience food, we cook our food. I said this in the talk today, we're the only species on earth that cook our food. You don't see a gorilla with a barbecue. And some of the animals in the wild, all they eat is plant food, and they're healthy and they don't suffer from some of the diseases and the spectrum of diseases we all suffer from. And it's just a case of giving what the body needs. And the body knows what it wants. And I say this in my latest newsletter, which is listen to your body, because often all you need is just a little bit more sleep, a little bit more water, hydrate a bit more often. And the biggest thing, the most profound thing, and we've heard it from a young age, which is get your fruits and veg in. And we're forced, a lot of us from a young age, to eat our carrots, eat our peas, eat our broccoli. I've seen campaigns and stuff. I think it was like a little cartoon thing. It was on TV for a long time when I was growing up, and it was something like eat them to defeat them. It was basically trying to really encourage kids just to buckle up and eat them. But the biggest thing about juicing is that if you are someone who hates fruits and vegetables, especially vegetables, if you can't eat it, you can drink it. And that's what served me. And when I'm doing this consistently, I went to a retreat in Turkey earlier this year. It's the 4th time I've done 7 days on nothing but juice. You come away feeling amazing. And it's not just me saying that. There's probably hundreds of people out there, thousands of people around the world who could say the exact same thing, who have turned around certain conditions and ailments, or they've lost so much weight. And people say, well, is it sustainable? Well, if you stop juicing, then you're going to gain that weight back. If you stick at it and it becomes a lifestyle, like I said today, then actually the results will be lasting, which is what we all want.
Just going back to, you say Turkey you was in to do on this retreat. Did you say you spent 7 days just drinking juices? So there was no food, it was just it was juice. Is that right?
So the first time I did that, it was quite a shock to the system. I think I'd done 2 full days on juice before, because that is the thing. I didn't say this quite clearly in the talk today, but that is that a well thought through juice or juice plan, but especially a juice in particular, is actually a meal replacement. It's not like a meal just because I might pour this into a glass and you say, well, it's a drink. But it's actually a meal replacement, because what is a meal? It's an array of nutrients that come together. You want the rainbow, a spectrum of colours going in, and that's all we need. I say to people like avocado. It's the one thing on planet Earth that you could live off exclusively and you'd be fine. It contains the 7 human needs: protein, fat, carbohydrate, vitamins, minerals. The only problem is you probably have no friends if you did that. So we don't just want to live on avocado. But for this week, nothing but juice. You'd wake up in the morning, you'd have basically wheatgrass that's mixed into some water, and then you'd drink that, down it, and then go on a hike or a walk in the morning up the mountains. You'd come back, and then you'd chill for about half an hour. Then you'd have a little ginger shot. You'd have, say, a little green smoothie. They have what's called a thickie. So it's basically some juice blended with some avocado, banana, a bit of yogurt. And then you have 2 thinnies, which are some juices just like this, probably about 400 or 500 ml size. That's what makes a meal, or constitutes a meal. And then in the evening, which is quite tragic, I suppose, but because so many of us go away on holiday and have a nice dinner or whatever, your dinner would be another thick smoothie. And it'd be a different one, probably like a beetroot-based smoothie. And you're getting everything you need. So all the hungers you get are actually mental. They're not physical. It takes a bit of time to get over that. You might get a headache or two, feel very tired. But come day 3, you're feeling amazing. And you come back from the trip feeling, $1 million, as they say.
I don't know if I could do something like that. I know nothing is impossible, but that sounds challenging.
Everyone says it to me. And family have said that, friends, and not everyone would be willing to go on a juicer treat. But I've gone with people now, and it's been great, and they've absolutely loved it as well. And I wouldn't start with that. I would start with trying a juice a day, because if you have a juice a day or a blend a day, say as your breakfast, best time to start, and you do that every day for, say, a week, well, actually in that week, if you think about it, breakfast, lunch and dinner, you're actually changing 33% of your diet. And I think that would have quite a big effect on your health, well-being, lifestyle.
And so I'm going to quickly one of your shots, and I've got to admit, I've said this quite a few times, but your shots are absolutely delicious. But let's say let's say who are genuinely struggling and they unfortunately can't buy one of your shots. Now, what would you recommend to people at home that want to try these shots, can't unfortunately afford it? What ingredients could they use, and what machines would they need to invest in to make them at home? It's a bit detrimental to your business, but on the same token, it will help people hopefully considerably.
I mean, first of all, I know this to be true, and I've learned from so many different people in business, and you've got some real hard sellers who are all about making money, and they're not interested in talking to you unless you're going to talk money, whatever. And then I've come across people like Jason Val who are out there to make a difference. Don't get me wrong, they're very switched on business people as well. But I know that, the world's a big enough place, and, there's an audience out there who will buy from me and support the business or whatever. But I'm not just doing it for that. I'm out here to help people who genuinely need it, but they couldn't necessarily afford a box of shots or juices. So if you went to the Juice Tube, Luke Morton, and you went onto YouTube, you'd find so many different videos, one of them being ginger shot, how to make a ginger shot. I think it's one of my most viewed videos. And you could do this with 3 ways to do it. Either you buy a little cheap blender, and you could get one online. I bought a little cheap Argos blender and juicer back in the day. And you can get these for £30-40, and obviously that's going to last you maybe a year, 2 or 3, or longer, depends on what you get. You don't have to get a high quality juicer or blender. And you can blend up, a bit of ginger, a bit of lemon, a bit of apple, and then buy a little sort of sieve bag, and then sieve it, and then squeeze it, and it kind of makes the juice. And you can put that into an ice cube tray holder and freeze them, and then you've got one every day for the next week, for example. Put them in, pop it into a glass or a shot glass, and you've got what you need to go. And likewise, you can do that in a little fast juicer. The reason I say get a little cold press juicer, and you can get these now, a little cold press juicer for maybe £100 on Amazon, for example, and that's going to last you. And you can make, if you're making a ginger shot, half an apple, a third of a lemon, either with the skin on or just take off the outside, but keep the white on the pith, and then a small inch of ginger. That's all you need. And obviously, if you're going to make 7 of those for a week, times that all by 7. And then the third option is obviously you could go to the shops. And I would say, I admire people who take action. And, if you wanted to get a little ginger shot from us right now, let's be honest, you couldn't, we're not in shops and stuff, we're an independent seller. You couldn't go and get one from us for tomorrow morning. But you could, as a first step, go out to a local shop. And I'd prefer you to go to like a juice bar, like a Joe and the Juice or Boost Juice or something, but very minimum. The supermarkets have them these days. You could go and grab a couple of ginger shots with the intention of just bettering your health and starting small, starting somewhere, because I started there, buying them from the shops, and then I found it cheaper to make them myself, and now I run it as a business. Obviously, I supply myself with the ones I make. So there's many ways to do it, but hopefully that helps. You can check out the video on YouTube. Just type in how to make a ginger shot, Luke Morton, and you'll find it.
You telling people that, because I think that information is really necessary, because there are families out there right now, or just couples or individuals who really do want to implement a positive change for their own health, but it's so expensive at the same time. So I appreciate you sharing that. So thank you.
I think it's one idea can change your life. Like, that's it. Like when I first came across a ginger shot, when I was younger, I really struggled with things like sore throats, and I'd hate it because I'd wake up and go to school and I just dreaded going through a school day with having a really horrible sore throat. And I remember 6 weeks consistently, and it was going into those winter months. I don't recall ever having a sore throat in that 6-week period. It's quite revolutionary, and that's just one little idea. But sometimes people have heard about a ginger shot, but they don't know how to go about it or what's involved, or can I have that because of things like heartburn and stuff. But the amount that you get in a ginger shot, especially the ones that we do or what I say to making that recipe, you're not going to struggle with things like heartburn. Unless you've been categorically told by a doctor, do not have this. It's very unlikely. There's only a few things like grapefruit if you're on a certain medication that you maybe shouldn't have. But most of all, it's all natural. So you're probably going to find that, you're not going to struggle with things like heartburn, for example, things like that.
One of the key things, I think, again, you mentioned there was, you don't have to start big. You don't have to go out there and, buy our £400 blender and all the rest of it. You can just start small, can't you? And it's those small changes which will then, I guess form maybe even a habit. And then all of a sudden it's becoming a lifestyle change. So that's a great bit of advice.
Less is more, but less is more. People have always said that to me, and it's true. Sometimes, little things a day add up.
Yeah, definitely. Here's another question for you, though. So what top tips could you leave our listeners today to encourage them, 1, to get started on the journey, 2, how to maintain it, and 3, how to create a lifestyle from it? Sorry, that ended up being 3 questions there.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the end in mind. You say you want to create a lifestyle. I think I heard something once. It said something like, it takes 30 days or 60 days to create a habit, but it takes 90 days plus to create a lifestyle. And so many people do things for a period of time. Some people think doing something for a week is good, and then they stop it all and they wonder why they don't get results. Likewise, some people do something for a good couple of months, just about build that habit, and then they let it go. And I'm not perfect here. I talked about this today. This idea of trying to be perfect, it's not attainable. And part of the reason I do these talks myself is to remind myself of what I know I should be doing. But I think if you're starting out, I can only say what I've experienced, and that is there's a whole world of wisdom out there. And these days it's at your fingertips. But what I found to be the most profound thing for me is getting out there and immersing yourself in some kind of event or seminar. We've mentioned the like of Jason Val, obviously going to those retreats, but Tony Robbins, some of the original, pioneering people in the self-help world like Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn. Some of these people aren't alive anymore, but if you can go to an event, if you're in the London area or Essex area, come to one of my talks, whatever, but something just to get yourself around, not just the speaker, but the people at the event. Something will just hit you and you'll be inspired and you'll learn things that you've not heard before. Even today, just listening to some of the people and conversations, it just gets you thinking, and then that'll give you the ideas. And in terms of maintaining that, I mean, like I said, it comes back to those disciplines. And I'm the product of so many experts and mentors along the way, both on a small level and a big level. Someone like a David Bell is one of my local heroes, and he's someone who I look up to and gives me opportunities even tomorrow. Like there's a networking thing at Braintree, and he's saying, I'm hosting if you want to come along. It just gets you out there again. But then you've got big picture. I've always had it in football, in motivation and business. I think it's very important to have a role model, because if you see someone, like when I see Jason Vow, the Juice Master, posting something or doing a video, it makes me want to go out there and maintain that consistency of doing a certain amount of videos every week. Because I think one of the guys mentioned it today. He said, even if you're getting no likes or even if you're getting no business from certain posts, just stay consistent. And it's hard, and I'm not saying it's going to be easy, and it's so easy to talk, it's much harder to walk. And very few people will go out of this podcast and actually implement these things, but some will. And I tend to listen to the people out there who are doing those things, who have got 10, 20, 30 years on me, and that rubs off. And if you surround yourself with these people enough, something's going to click, something's going to rub off, and you become who you mix with. And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
I've just thought of, as you were talking about, what benefits do you find, or have you found, she, given you? Because
I would say one of the biggest things I find really interesting, I talked about it today, you've got diet mentality and then freedom mentality. And on the days that I've actually, because I was always a sucker for, and I still am to an extent, I'm not going to make out I don't touch any of this stuff anymore, because, I've always been taught from a young age, everything in moderation, because we only live this life once, and there are two extremes. Someone might say, my body is my temple, and another person might say, YOLO, you only live once. And I think either extreme is dangerous. It's a bit like, the medical world versus the alternative world. And I'm not someone coming from a juicing background who's saying, just do juicing, ignore medication, ignore this, ignore the doctor. I stand firmly in the middle. I wrote a newsletter about it alongside my girlfriend, actually, who's a pharmacist. And this whole idea that you have to work in synergy, because there is a time and place for short-term, medium-term, even long-term medication. But what we're trying to do is have the juices going in every day, because most people aren't getting 10 to 15 portions, what we really need. And on the days I've had a shot, a juice, maybe a second juice, because I've made it myself, I don't feel a desire to have that chocolate bar, even if it's in the cupboard, or if someone offers me something, I genuinely don't want it. It's not like I could do with that. And you actually, funny enough, you start craving what nature intends, which is like, I'll have a banana instead. I'll have, instead of having a packet of crisps, So when you're consistent on it, your body, you'll be surprised. Your taste buds will change over time. Like I used to hate things like, I juice things like red bell peppers now, and asparagus, and Brussels sprouts can go into juices, things like that. And I would never eat those things, but even in a juice, sometimes you can taste it, and people see a green juice and are scared. And it's a bit like that old saying, what is it? Goes down with a spoonful of sugar, So, but people think that, do I need to add sugar to the juices because it's going to taste horrible? Actually, what you find is over time you start having these things. Yes, you can taste that earthy vegetable taste a little bit, and even in our juices, but your taste buds actually change, and you'll find that your body naturally wants to have these things, and you then won't be having all the crap, all the convenience food.
Health differences have you seen in yourself since having, and how long have you been having these shots?
So I'll say this, there's different times when we're really on it. We talked about motivation, but when I've really been on it, that's the best time to say after, say, a 7-day juicer treat, or when I've been consistently having a juice a day. The list is endless, and I'm actually in the process of writing a book. I'm calling it the Juice Guy's Handbook. And for me, the benefits, when I come off a juicer treat, lost weight, not just lost, visible weight, but body fat, the fat that kind of surrounds your organs, things like that. And that in turn leads to more confidence. You walk with a spring in your step. Things like energy levels, waking up in the morning and not feeling fatigued, but actually feeling energetic. When I was having beetroot-based juices and I was playing in goal for a long time, I felt that little bit sharper. People talk about mental fog these days, things like that. Just having a clearer mind. People say to me all the time, you have really lovely skin. And I sometimes think, well, maybe that might be genetic, but I think, well, actually, it is the avocado and it is the green juices. Because I'll tell you this, I'm wearing a green top right now, and green juices are quite topical. It's the colour of my brand. Nothing on this earth would exist without the colour green. You think about the trees that give us oxygen, the plants that we consume, and green is life. And green plants trap the sunlight energy, and that's why people talk about these superfoods in kale, spinach, and then all your salads, the lettuce, things like that, wheatgrass, obviously. And it's just helped me in so many ways that it was too good not to share. And the biggest thing, people go on reducer treats, and one of the biggest things people say to me is, well, how much weight did you lose? And they actually don't have any scales at these retreats because so many people are so focused on losing weight. And that might be a fairer thing we want to do and lose that weight. But the biggest thing is just how you feel. And sometimes you can't quantify that. You just have to try it on for size and do it yourself and give it a chance, and you'll see how much of a difference it makes. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because it's just like nothing I'd ever experienced.
It does come through, which is absolutely refreshing and lovely to see how hungry you are, not for the pound note, but more to actually implement a positive change and help people along your journey. Now, I've got one last question for you, and that is, where do we buy your shots? Because I think that's going to be important for everyone who is listening to know.
Yeah, so first of all, I say, look, you can reach out to me, myself, on any platform, Luke Morton. If it was on Instagram, Luke Morton _ 𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐞 on Instagram, all the different platforms. And we started out, and this is a tip for you if you're starting out, you don't need, even though people will always ask you, you don't necessarily need a website. You don't necessarily need an all singing and dancing, whatever, leaflets, all of that. What you just need is a point of contact. And so much business these days might be done through WhatsApp, through Facebook Messenger, through Instagram DM. And I started this business through face-to-face marketing and also social media and direct messaging people, and people reaching out to me and reaching back and saying, okay, this is your order. But equally, you can go to our website, www.𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐞.co.uk, and you'll find our products on there. But like I say, if you have any questions before you're going to buy, always let us know. If you want us to send you a special link because you want a certain package, we could do that for you as well. But 𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐞 _ is probably the best way to find us on Instagram. We're most active on there, post on a daily basis. We go live a few times, normally myself or a few others. And we're there all the time for you. Well,
Luke, I really appreciate your time today. I know I caught you last minute, and I just want to say a massive thank you for being a part of this podcast. So really appreciate your time today, Luke. Thank you so much.
I appreciate the opportunity, 𝐸𝐸, and here's to more, and best of luck with the rest of the podcasting.
And you.